It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Well, welcome everyone to our political analysis show. The election is over. It's all but the shouting and screaming and crying right now. Well, we have the panel here today, our pre-election panel. We're here today to discuss the results of the election. So remember, these are our opinions. We always welcome your opinion. Sam at ssptv.com. Sit back and you're going to have fun. You're going to get nervous. You're going to get mad, etc. But it's going to be an interesting show. So let me welcome our panel, Rick Morelli, Charles McElwee, and of course, Mike DeCosmo. Gentlemen, welcome back. It's a little different because we're after the election now, okay? And so we could now analyze what's going to happen. Rick, let's start with Luzerne County Council. Your thoughts on that?
So again, it's always fun after the election because we come here before the election and we always tell you what we think is going to happen. Then after, it doesn't always go the way we think. But I think overall, some things we expected, some surprises. When it comes to Luzerne County Council, I think the biggest surprise was of the 6 people who won, 4 were Democrats, 2 Republicans. What we know today after that, and which is very interesting, is that the Democratic Party put out a lot of money on advertising, not only for their candidates, but against some other candidates. One was Steve Urban. They attached Harry Haas to it. So a couple things that comes out of it. It just shows the Democratic Party of how much money they spent. And I'm talking, Mike, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was over $100,000 of PAC money that went to these candidates, which I find to be really surprising for when it comes to what the role of county council is and you're spending money. Obviously, that had to help. I think not surprised of Steve Urban. He obviously had some issues on the side. Harry Haas won, even with the negative publicity, and plus he spent less than $1,000 in his campaigns. Leanne, who's an incumbent, won. She was the high vote getter. A little surprised with Kim Platek coming in a little bit on the low side down here in Lower Luzerne County. I think the downside there was the fact that she attached a couple people from up top to get votes down here when she needs to win 3-1 down here, and that didn't work to her favor. So at the end of the day, that's the surprise. Do I think it's really gonna change council? No, I think they're actually good people. I think if they go in with an open mind and they respect Ramilda's opinion and work together, I think all in all it's going to be a good council.
I spoke to Ramilda today, and she said she met with everyone and she was very pleased. They're all looking forward to moving the county in the right direction, so I think you're going to be right on target.
I say it all the time, and I hate when parties come together and say vote Republicans, vote Democrats, because I can tell you that 95% of the issues out there are not political parties, and I hate when the outside parties get involved on council members.
So what do you think the motive was there? I mean, as to why the Democrats spend all that kind of money?
Listen, one thing in politics, everybody wants to be able to say they control something and they have a say in that. And I will say that in the past years, a couple Republicans who got in last were controlled by some of the party politics outside. I think they had something to do with Ramilda not getting the job the first time, if you want my opinion. So it's things like that they want. And again, let me go back to it's things like why some of them want to change the home rule government because of influence on the outside. And it's one of the reasons why I like the current charter, not to get into that subject, is the fact that it's keeping outside influence out. It's keeping it out of the way. So I think all in all, the county's in good position with Ramilda being there as chairman, with the council that they have. I think you got some new people. I'm actually kind of happy Harry's back because he's one of the first originals with the charter, and he understands the rules of the charter where some of these council members don't.
Well, here again, as long as they're doing the best for the people, and I don't know that much about some of the people who ran. I was hoping that we would have had some of them make an investment to come on and explain what they had to offer. Charles, first of all, you have any comments about the Luzerne County Council before we get into?
Well, as Rick noted, I mean, Democrats, whether it was in Luzerne County or statewide, they have the upper hand compared to the Republican Party when it comes to raising money, mobilizing grassroots, and also the mail-in ballot game. So it's not surprising to hear what happened in Luzerne County when you compare it to the rest of the statewide map.
Statewide,
it was a disaster for the Republican Party in Pennsylvania. It made 2022 look tame. I mean, talking to you right now, Sam, I can think of 3 notable exceptions for the Republican Party. In Philadelphia, Brian O'Neill is the last elected Republican in the entire city. He won re-election handily as the city councilman for Northeast Philadelphia. If you go in Western Pennsylvania, Allegheny County, which is essentially Pittsburgh, Steve Zapala, who ran as a Republican, he was a Democrat, lost in the primary earlier this year. He beat the far left DA candidate, Mark Dugan, in the Allegheny County DA race. The third exception was actually locally. When you think of notable exceptions, Jeff Cassat handily winning re-election as a Republican in a city where you would assume, if not knowing anything about Hazleton, that it would be an uphill battle for him. He won. But besides that, Sam, Dauphin County, the county commissioners went Democrat for the first time since 1919. Monroe County went Democrat. School boards flipped to Democrat throughout the suburbs. It was really among the worst years for the party in memory.
What do you attribute that to?
A few factors, among them the fact that the Democrats succeeded in applying national issues to local offices, local races that have nothing to do with those national issues. The primary one being the polarizing issue of abortion. That was applied at the local level, and Democrats took that issue, whether it was in Allegheny County or elsewhere throughout the state, applied it toward local candidates and prevailed. The other issue when it came to the school boards, really the culture war fight, it has lost its salience compared to, let's say, 2021, when Virginia, for example, flipped to the Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin. This year, just in Virginia, if it went Democrat, the legislature did. But here in Pennsylvania, Republicans lost school boards that were Republican, that flipped to Republican in 2021, including in suburban Philadelphia. And the third is just the mail-in game. The Democrats are so much better than the Republican Party at going out and getting those mail-in ballots submitted, and it really helps when it comes to those raised within voting margins.
Mr. DeCosmo, your analysis?
Yeah, 2 things, Sammy. Let me talk about the state, and let me just get back to the county for a second. Not my biggest surprise. In fact, I know the gentleman very well. They have a place down in Wildwood, Rick, by you and I, but Danny McCafferty. And that was really the seat that the Democrats wanted. They put a ton of money out against him. I must have seen 2,000 ads about him watching pornography, but, never once did his opponent talk about her qualifications. Danny did. He talked about the case he tried, and I think people listened to that more than the negative advertisements. But getting back to Luzerne County, my greatest political analysis I do is day after. First call I always get is from John Udicek, and John said to me, Mike, he said, we never had $100,000 to work with in Luzerne County, and we didn't. The only money when I was chairman, John and I had, was the money we raised, and let me tell you, we had a scratch and claw for it, but never any outside money. But the fact of the matter is, Sammy, why did it happen? Why did Democrats do it? I think the Democrats saw it. Margins becoming razor thin in Luzerne County. They've lost the last 2 times pretty big. They want to flip Luzerne County back again. And I think that's why so much outside money came. You win 4 out of 6. First time Democrats have done that since I was chairman, and we won 4 out of 5 the one year too. And I'm proud to say Ricky switched Democrat cross files, so that's why we got 1 of the 4 out of 5. But the fact of the matter is, I think the Democratic National Committee understands in the presidential race how important Luzerne County is. There were stories written about it from the original Trump race, Trump-Hillary Clinton race, and if they could flip that back, I think it's going to be very important in the presidential landscape.
Well, when you're talking about the cities, you're looking at all the cities that are a disaster. They're run by Democrats. So my question is, what are people looking for, and what are they, when you're looking at the seriousness of school boards, and we'll talk about the school board, how very important they are. So what are they looking at? I mean, I can't understand that. You know, is they like disaster? Do they like the crime? Do they like? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't understand it. Rick?
You know, Sam, I was driving into New York City the other day, and I was just on the outskirts, and there was this lady who, I don't want to stereotype, but she had a baby on the back, and she was selling bananas in the middle of the street while cars were going down. And I had to assume the fact that she's probably here illegally, and this is how she's making a living for her kid. And I'm saying to myself, is this the right thing of this person out here trying to make a living for that? And that's the problem, I think, for one of the major issues is that our border, and I don't want to get away from local issues, but somebody's got to do something about our border. We're doing more for borders around the world than we are locally. And then you have people like this who are in the middle with a baby on the back that there's so much that could happen. So, you know, you go back to what do they want? I don't think, first of all, let's go to the city. It's a fact that there's probably 60% who are Latino, but it's also a fact that Mayor Cassatt won by a landslide, and the fact that a lot of these Latinos come out, they don't vote for Latinos, which is fine. But I think that's one of the biggest surprise, not that Mayor Cassatt won, but it was just such a blowout when it came to the election going back to the city. And I think that was a tale, one of the things that was most noticeable.
Charles, my question is, again, and you're living with these disasters in the cities, predominantly Democrats, okay, with their rules and regulations or whatever. And yet, you know, you're saying, well, look, even if it were Republicans, it'd be the same thing. Why do they continuously put these people back into office and they continue on with the problems that we're having?
Look, it's just a case of political demography. So when you look at the composition of voters who are regularly voting in a city like Philadelphia, I mean, a large segment of those voters are young professionals, transients oftentimes, who have relocated to the city of Philadelphia, or let's say another big city. They're employed by the nonprofit or healthcare or government sectors.
They don't care about the city? They don't care about what's going on?
They're disconnected.
Yeah. Until it affects them. Until someone goes in and either rapes one of their children or robs their home or destroys one of them because there's illegals all over the place. Then when it affects them, all of a sudden they're concerned about it.
Well, that's the story of this age. I mean, the people who support policies and nevertheless support those policies even though they're unaffected by the consequences of what they support.
Until it affects them.
Yeah.
Then when it affects them, it's like, oh my God, what do we do here? Mike, I got to hand it to the Democrats. They have the biggest propaganda machine that you've ever saw. Seriously. I'm watching Hulu, a series, and I'm watching these commercials with Biden, and I'm watching, and I'm saying to myself, am I living in the same world that with what they're telling me? Okay, that the middle class is doing extremely well, and that our inflation is under control, and they're even doing social media now, going after the younger people. I'm going to get on abortion a little later on the show. We have Congressman Barletta coming up after the break, but I got to hand it to them because they continue to brainwash everyone. Now, here's another interesting fact. I have a very good friend of mine who is a liberal Democrat, and he's one of my best friends. We had a discussion about this. Last week, I walked the mall when I come up here, the office. I talked to 28 people from the ages of 21. I must say a majority of them were over 50 years old. What do you think of President Biden? Is he doing a good job for our country? I don't even want to tell you some of the remarks that I got, okay? Not one person told me, that he's doing a pretty good job. Do you shop in a grocery stores, Mr. Lesante? Yeah. The only grocery store around here that I think is maintained low prices is Boyer's. They're the only ones that I know that are out there with good prices. That's my opinion. But I got to tell you, the propaganda is unbelievable. And it just, and I have to hand it to the Democrats.
Well, two things, Sammy, and I talked about this before. The Republicans, every time they get in power, seem to shoot themselves in the foot. get the majority in the House, and they don't govern.
Yep.
I mean, they have a screwball like that, George Santos there. They're protecting this guy. You know, this might be the worst congressman we've ever seen in our lifetime. And instead of just saying, hey, let's cut our ties, someone else could fill his position, they became 2R. But getting back to, and again, the points we were making, I'll say Hazel Township, governed by Democrats, best place you'd ever want to live. But you look at Schuylkill County, Sammy. Schuylkill County won 2-1 Republicans. So, you know, some of the reasons, like you're saying, the bigger cities tend to lean more Democrat. The rural counties, though, I think, are still very strong
Mike,
Republican.
I don't consider township Democrats. I consider them, I mean, they're moderate. They're doing the best job. I mean, you're a pro-life Democrat. I mean, you don't believe what the party believes.
No.
Okay. So township, you know, in fact, Jim switched to be Republican, didn't he? Okay, only because he saw he has moral values, as far as I'm concerned. So when you see these things happening, and say, forget about whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's the substance of the person, because they're affecting different people's lives. Folks, I'm gonna take a break and come back. Congressman Morelli has a very serious issue that he wants to discuss with you. We'll take a break right now. Well, welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Our political analysis show with the panel, the pre-election panel, Rick Morelli, Charles McElwee, and Mike DeCosmo. Before I went to break, I said we'll have former Congressman Lou Barletta on the phone, and he is on the phone. Lou, welcome to the Sam Lesante Show.
Thanks, Sam. Good to talk to you again.
How's everything with the family?
They're all good. They're all good. Enjoying the grandkids in my retirement, so it's nice to be able to spend time with them.
And how's your grandson?
Thank God he's doing good, and I'm going to ask people to continue to pray for him. He's 6 years old now, and he gets checked regularly, and so far he's been really good, and I attributed that to the prayers of so many people. Well,
it was nice seeing you at the funeral a couple of weeks ago, you and your lovely wife. Now, we're talking about a program that's out and that you're a little concerned about. Could you tell our viewers what this program is and what your concerns are?
Sure, I am. I'm very concerned about it, Sam. And what's more concerning to me is that how many of our elected officials are actually supporting this program. And I think it's very not well known by the public of what exactly is going on. And you know, we talk about some of this stuff that gets into our schools, and we ask, how does this happen? Well, here's a perfect example how it's happening. It's a program called Couth. And what it is, basically, it's a for-profit business from the UK, and they're offering private mental health care and advice to students online without parental knowledge. So parents have no idea that their child, their son or their daughter, are actually going online, speaking with strangers on such serious issues as gender and I mean, you name it, any topic, any issue that a child may be dealing with, they can go online and talk to folks from this business. Now, it even gets more troubling, Sam. It's really a public forum. It's like a social media platform, basically, where there's a chat room where anyone can go in, any school that enrolls, any student from that school can go in from the ages of 11 in Philadelphia to 14 anywhere else around the state, all the way up to 18 years old. So you can have an 18-year-old giving advice to an 11-year-old about their gender, about possibly, not being comfortable in as what they are, without the parents even knowing about this. Now they're passing this off as a mental health program in the schools, but the truth of the matter is that 5 or less than 5% of any of the students that go on actually ever talk to a psychiatrist. And some of the topics and articles that are on here, I don't know if any parents would really allow that to happen. Now, my question to the representatives and the elected officials who are supporting this and getting this in the school, it is already in 19 schools in Pennsylvania. Some tell me it could be up as many as 30 schools. This for-profit business received $3 million from the state to have pilot programs, and what they're doing is they're trying to get it into these school districts. The fact of the matter is that, whether it's medically, and there are other platforms that would be medically and clinically appropriate that include parental consent. I think every parent should know, whether their child is talking to somebody about issues dealing with their mental health. Why would we allow this without the parents' involvement and consent? And we really need to make sure that our school board members, that our state reps, our state senators know that we know what this is, and people need to voice their opinions on why this thing should not be into our schools.
Before I go to Rick Morelli, well, who introduced this program in the state in the first place, and what was their selling point?
Well, the selling point to try to get this past the smell test is that they're trying to deal with mental health issues. Obviously, we see the school shootings and what's happening around the country, and there's an outcry that, why aren't we seeing this before it happens? So there's an appetite, by everyone to say, hey, let's try to catch this before it happens. However, I doubt there are very many people in this country that would want strangers talking to their child without them knowing about it when it could be whether or not they want to switch their gender. No matter what the topic is, you're in a chat room with people you don't know. And here's the real problem, Sam. I know some people who have been able to log on, get in, who are not in school, people who are 30, 40 years old, have been able to say they're a student in the school and be able to get in these chat rooms and talk to these children. This is frightening. And this is unbelievable that we have representatives trying to pass this off as something that's good when, like I said, there are medically and clinically appropriate platforms that would include parents. Why would you not want a parent to know? That's my question. This is a liberal, very liberal business model from the UK that they're really getting into our schools.
Really scary to hear some of the things you're talking about. First, as a father of a young kid who's in school, someone who's been on the school board, to hear this. And, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I was going to even mention before you got on when we were talking about government, how things are changing. And if I talk in politics in general to anybody, people are going to say, I'm not worried about myself, I'm worried about my kids and my grandchildren. That's where most people say. And it's because of things like this that are coming out there. I'm all for technology and I'm all for everything else that is out there for kids. But the first thing is that school districts and state reps and people in elected officials need to do a better job in policing all this technology, especially when it comes to schools and especially to the kids. I find it alarming that anyone would want to even put this out there and it's not validated through school districts. So I appreciate you bringing this up, and I'm really love to see who's voting for that throughout the state. Lastly, again, going back to my point, so if you, even today you talk about values of why are people voting Democrat? It's scary. You go out for a job now and they'll ask you what's your sexual orientation. They'll ask you if you're a he or a she, and I'm like, what are you even talking about? But this is the world today. And this is the stuff, going back to your question earlier, Sam, of why are people voting for what they're voting for? And it's scary. It is a scary time, and no due respect, Mike, and I have people who are Democrats. They don't even know what they're voting for because I'm a Democrat, and that bothers me because you don't even know what you're voting for. You got to understand the issues. I understand your dad was a Democrat. Times have changed, and people need to start listening and understanding what's affecting, because it's changing our country in a bad way.
Rick, you made a point. I mean, the thing that people say most is, it's the next generation. It's our children and our grandchildren that we want to protect and make sure, the world is changing. And how is this stuff happening? We talk about the pornographic books that are in our schools. I mean, if I have seen this campaigning around the state and in so many school districts that you would not believe. The books that are in our school libraries many of them showing males having sex together with illustrations. One book has a father talking about having sex with his 12-year-old daughter and actually describing it. It is absolutely disgusting. But the question is, how are they getting into our schools? And I think we're at a point in time in politics, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, where we really need to start asking some hard questions of people who want to be in office. Are you going to police this kind of stuff? These are the things we're worried about. And we have to hold them accountable. We cannot let them just elect them because they're a friend or we know them and we hike them. So that's fine. But if you want to hold office today, we expect you to protect our children and grandchildren because we can't be there. We don't see this. You and I aren't making these decisions. It's the people we elect that are, and we need to start holding them accountable, whether they're a friend or they're not a friend.
Lou, what you're talking about is so disorienting and frightening, and at the heart of it is the fact that none of this is imagined. These are real issues, real concerns going on right now, and no reasonable parent would ever imagine that he or she would be dealing with this. And yet, we just came off an election where school boards in suburbia, including in Bucks County, flipped from Republican to Democrat. What do you think must be done in terms of messaging and targeting? Because clearly, as it stands, Democrats, at least this past election, had the upper hand. What must be done to show these parents what is going on? Because after all, there's a reason that private, Catholic, and homeschool is surging right now, because there are enough parents out there who realize that this is going on. They don't want to expose their children to it.
Yeah. Well, what's happening, Charles, because, this is, you look at the economy, you look at inflation, you look at what's happening with crime in our cities and what's going on in our schools, and you look at what's happening at the border, and you look at what's happening, around the world, and you wonder why would someone continue to want to elect, the same party that's really in charge? But the fact of the matter is, at least here in Pennsylvania, and this is my opinion, there's such a disorganization in the Republican Party that, the Republicans are getting clobbered before the polls even open. There are some of our statewide candidates were down 400 and some thousand. Like McCaffrey had 631,000 mail-in votes, and Carolyn Carlucci had 178,000 before the polls even opened. The Democrats have mastered the mail-in ballots, and they perfected it, and the Republicans continue thinking that they can go on election day and catch up on these races, and they're not. They're getting their clocks cleaned. There's no real organization. There's no real voice. Let's look what happened in Washington. This speaker race, it was such chaos that, people say, I don't like what's going on, but can the Republicans govern? When you start raising questions like that, when a party is organized like the Democrats are with mail-in ballots, we see elections, going the way they are.
Lou, good talking to you as always. A couple things. You were talking how they were using this as a backdoor approach. So, I guess my question, whether it be the Department of Health, Department of Education, I can tell you, my wife sitting on the school board, they're begging for more guidance counselors. Why this money can't be funded in the hiring more guidance counselors in the schools than the funding these organizations? It just makes no sense at all to me.
Plus, Mike, especially the fact is you'll have a guidance counselor who's from the area, who knows the students. The parents can meet them. They can get to know each other, and you can build a trust with that guidance counselor. You have 11 and 12, 13 and 14-year-olds talking to some stranger, and God knows they could be a child molester for all we know, offering advice to children, and the fact that the state gave them $3 million for this pilot program up front. So it's not even a matter of, well, come back and show us the results. Let's see how the programs work. Give us results and we'll give you more money. They get the $3 million up front. We don't even know about it. Most of you and your listeners, Sam, are probably hearing this for the first time. And it's already in possibly 30 school districts in Pennsylvania, 19 that I know for sure. where today's students can log on. Oh, here's another another beauty part of it. You talk about bells and whistles to try to get kids hooked. If the school joins, there are articles that you can read, and it could be LGBTQ, whatever article, whatever they want to pass on as an article. The school, when you read the article, you get points, and the school with the most points, they will have a celebrity come to their school, and you get double the points in the summertime, so that they keep these kids hooked online even when they're not in school in the summertime. And I mean, to me, without parental consent, without parental knowledge, to me, this sounds like a real snake oil salesman that's trying to poison our kids, get in our schools, and, without any of us even knowing about it.
So as the viewers listen to this particular story that you're talking about, what do you suggest we do?
Well, the most basic thing we can do is call up your state rep, your state senators, your school board members. They're the people. That's where it's happening. The money came from the state in a grant. If I was a state rep, I would be speaking out in opposition to this. I would make it public that I'm watching your kids. I want parental involvement. I don't want to hear one elected official say they're for parental involvement and say that they and not denounce this program. And we need to go to our school board members and make sure they're aware of it, and make sure that they know, we don't want this in our schools, and we're going to be watching. And that's how we stop it. We need to hold our elected officials accountable.
Has your wife encountered this particular program?
Not that I know of. Not that I know of, Lou. It hasn't reached Hazleton yet.
It's not in the Hazleton Area School District as far as I know right now, because I've been checking.
Okay.
But it is. Let me tell you, it's very much in the Northeast. In fact, their main headquarters. Now they're from the UK. Their main headquarters is in 44. So,
Wow. Well,
so it's right in our backyard.
You wonder how these things happen, huh, Lou? You wonder how the radicals are taking over, and we're just letting them do it.
Well, and Sam, and we were talking before, Lou, again, going back to county council, and I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but we talked about how money definitely flowed from the Democratic Party to certain people, and that's how it works, because you want to have outside influence into government, and it may not be this issue for that, but you're talking 44, who's part of our area.
And listen, I'm all for making sure we stay ahead of the curve. If there's a student with a problem, we want to be able to recognize it, and I get that. I think we all agree with that. There are signs with some of these these kids that go crazy. There's signs ahead of time that we wish somebody would have recognized. But I don't think I don't think any program is appropriate if it does not have parental consent involved with it. I think every parent should know who is talking to their children and what they're talking to them about.
Well, I'm sure you're going to be making a few more announcements on this, right, Lou, and getting some statewide publicity?
I am, Sam. I found that you don't have to be in office to make a difference. That there are certain things there are certain things that that you just can't sit back and be quiet about. So I have a PAC, as I said. We've talked about it. I've been on your show talking about the PAC that I started, and what we're going to do is we're going to find things like this, and we're going to go out, and if people are not going to denounce and stop them, we're going to use the money to try to get someone else elected in those spots where our elected officials aren't doing what parents and the public wants them to do and the voters want them to do. If you're not going to listen to the voters, then you shouldn't be in office.
Well, Lou, thanks for taking the time being on the show. We always welcome your input and keep us informed what's going on. Anything in closing you'd like to say?
No, I want to thank you. This is the most you've allowed me to speak on your show, I think, 20 years.
Oh, wish you the best. All I can tell you, Lou, is I was talking to my good friends, a couple of priests the other day, and I want to tell you, Satan is working very hard these days. I'll tell you, he's working very hard. Thanks.
We've got to work harder, Sam.
You're darn right. We're going to take a break, my friends. We'll be back right after this. Well, are you riled up yet, my friends? This is our political analysis show, and I'm sure there's a lot of you who have your opinions. Remember, these are all our opinions. Please, if you have any questions, comments, Sam at ssptv.com. The panel's here, Rick Morelli, Charles McElwee, and Mike DeCosmo. Let's get back to local elections and your comments on some of the local elections, Mr. Morelli.
So I think it's a great segue from some of the things that Congressman Liu spoke about with our schools to talk about the school board election. We had 5 people who won on that evening. Was it 5? Then we had a 2-term seat. I think the biggest surprise, getting right into it, was there were basically two tickets, and the one ticket won, where you had Joe Barletta, Jimmy Chapman, Miss McBride, and Tony Bonomo, who won on 2, and then Dr. Childs won on the other seat, where his team did not. The most recent news after is that Dr. Childs has said publicly that he wasn't going to take the seat because he'd be in the minority. And my 2 cents on that is, first of all, if someone votes for you, you have a right to do what you're supposed to do. I've been in there as a minority. When I was first on county council, there were 11 people. It was 10-1. Listen, if you have good ideas and you have very good people who we do have on our school board, educators, business people, nurses, you name it, common sense will prevail. So if you have ideas that make sense and common sense, I think Dr. Childs could get through to these people. But to say, I'm not going to run because I'm not going to get my way, and we did talk it on the pre-election show, that you brought it up about how he was running with his wife just so he could get a second vote. Not sure that was the best thing. So I think some of the people saw through that, and I think I'm happy with the school board. I think we have a very good board who's made a lot of progress throughout the years, and it was about what the people who are in there, what are they going to do versus just go out there and find problems. I've been on the board. It's easy to find problems. It's very hard to come up with solutions.
Well, you had other local elections that you were...
we also spoke, and I have to say, we talked about some of the supervisor races. Some were tight, some were not so tight. I have to mention my good friend Mike Reich, who was the supervisor down at Butler Township. I forgot his name on the last show. But Mike's doing a great job, and again, in that race, Mr. Ottmiller won. At first it was tight, but that's only the way the numbers come in the county. But at the end of the day, he pulled away. And so really no other upsets throughout the area, I think, that I could think of. And Mike, maybe I'm wrong on that.
You want to stick with the school board, Mike?
Well, Sammy, I'd say run the tape. I think we were all over it. If you look at our pre-election show, there was only one I think we had wrong, maybe the council race over in West Hazelton. But with the school board, Sammy, I just want to say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Childs, I'll never, ever, ever be able to thank him enough. I remember him sitting up in his office with my son Mike when he had a reaction to a vaccination, 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, he was that kind of a doctor, that kind of a man, and I'll always have respect for him because of that. However, politics is much different than being a doctor.
Yes.
And again, with his wife, I think a lot of people, Sammy, I mean, you've said it many times, don't vote for someone because they're popular, but I don't know if she ever had much of a footprint. People really didn't know anything about his wife. They loved Dr. Childs because of his service to the community, but that doesn't make his wife a good candidate. And I really feel, I mean, which I heard from a lot of people, a husband and wife, father and son shouldn't be serving on the same school board because you're eliminating one of the decision-making, part of the decision-making process. So again, Dr. Childs won again, I think a lot because a lot of his old patients and families voted for him, but his wife was an unknown.
What do you think about the city race, the mayor race, and the candidates who are running?
The city race, and again, a couple of things, I think Charles will expound on this. One of my biggest surprises when I went up and I go through the wards election day, Sammy, I go to the East End Firehouse, and who's there but the president of Dominican Republic campaigning for Jeff Cassatt, So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, Jeff, I think, did a real good job with that segment of the community. One thing I do want to say, and I'll tie Dr. Child's wife into this, along with Cindy DeLu DeLuca. I think a lot of people were wondering how well she'd do in the race. And let me tell you, full disclosure, Mike Possessor is my nephew, my godson, someone I love very much. But pretty much all of her campaign and Dr. Child's wife, they were wearing the T-shirts down there, fire Mike Possessor, let's get rid of him. But once he was cleared by the Department of Education, by the Pennsylvania State Police, by the district attorney, and by the Hazleton School Police, not one of those people ever came forward and said, we made a mistake, we're sorry. So, you know, if you make a mistake, apologize for it. And I think we saw Mr. Luca finish last, Dr. Child's wife finished last. People just don't want candidates out there who are out there to scream and shout and ruin people's careers.
Charles?
Look, this local mayor's race was really fascinating because it's an important case study going into the 2024 cycle at all levels, including national, because it's an example of how the Republican Party can make successful inroads with a critical voting bloc if engaged and mobilized, and that voting bloc is the Latino vote. Jeff Cassatt has made tremendous inroads with this essential voting bloc in the city. They comprise 65% of the city's population. And as Mike noted, I mean, you had Dominican elected officials campaigning for Mayor Cassatt in Hazleton. The mayor of San Jose de Ocoa, which is where many of Hazleton's Dominicans come from, he came to Hazleton election eve and election day, mobilized voters, went to the polls, and it's a story of Cassatt building a relationship with Hispanic residents of the city. He regularly travels to the Dominican Republic. He talks to these voters. And you have to look at the city of Hazleton now. So when you look at the city, there are approximately 50 churches, Hispanic churches in the city. They're Pentecostal, evangelical, non-denominational groups that are meeting in garages, houses, and offices all over the city. The congregants are oftentimes Democrat, the pastors are Republican. But together they share the concerns about education, economics, and also illegal immigration that one would associate with the Republican Party. So when you look at how Cassatt prevailed recently in that election, it's really the ultimate case study when you look across the map of Pennsylvania, when you consider that Latinos are the fastest growing demographic in the state, and the fact that Luzerne County experienced more demographic change than any other large county across the country in the first 2 decades of the century, that voting bloc, if mobilized by the GOP, could be the game changer in electoral outcomes statewide.
You know, Rick, you bring an excellent point up when you're talking about these hidden agendas. When you're talking about, you know, why do they spend so much money in getting these school board councils, school boards on, etc. And then you just heard what Barletta said, and then when the kid comes home and you're saying, what? You learned this in school? What? They're doing this in school? It's the same, and that's what they're doing. Let me finish with the abortion issue, okay? You know, so here's the Democrat Party, not this guy right here, not this man right here. He's a pro-lifer from day one, okay? But they are selling abortion, okay? They're having influence. Look, the Republicans want to keep your babies. We'll kill them for you. The Democrats will kill them for you. Shapira, okay, cutting down the alternatives of where the agencies that are saying if you're pregnant, we'll take care of your babies. We'll do that. He's cutting their funds. So it's sad when you have to look at Ohio. And Charles says, why should that be an issue? An unborn baby, okay, we'll kill those babies for you. The Democrats will do it for you, okay? And people go and vote. They're not concerned about inflation, they'll vote for them. That breaks my heart. It really does.
So again, I think the point is that, you know, we follow politics. I will say that most people don't really fully understand. There's a couple issues. And people really have to start paying attention to the future of this country and what's important. And you talk about just values. Go back to the old days of parenting, what we discussed before, more parent involvement, which is not happening, okay? I coach youth football, and I can't tell you how many people drop their kids off and don't even come to the games, all right? Things are changing, and we need to stop people just going out and voting for one or two, or because they get a mail ballot, start paying attention, because it's our future, it's our country. And it's starting to get scary, it really is. And I know that a lot of people out here say that, and again, you walked around, you hear it.
Yeah.
It just, I just don't understand sometimes when the votes come in what they're thinking of.
So, Michael, I got to go back to your, I know you don't feel how the Democrat Party feels about abortion, okay? But it's amazing to me how they would hang on to that. A quick story when you talk about abortion. I tell you the story of my secretary she's since passed. She came into my office and she said, "Mr. Lesante, there's a young girl out in your office," and the viewers heard this story, but and she's carrying a baby, and she says, "You're responsible for that baby." Well, wow, I'm out there in a second. There's a 16-year-old girl, Charles, holding this beautiful little baby, 3-month-old. And she said, "Mr. Lesante, will you hold the baby?" I said, "Yeah." Listen to the baby, beautiful blue eyes and smiling at me, etc. And she said, "You're responsible for that baby, Mr. Lesante," his wife. She said, "Because the night before I was scheduled to go and have an abortion." Now, these are her words, not my words. "I was going to kill that baby. But I heard you talking to Marianne Lawhon and Frank Polidoro, and they're talking about how, how valuable a child is, and well, if you don't want the child, we'll take care of the child." She said, "Here it is today. Look at that, my 3-month-old boy, and I was going to kill that baby. The Democrats say, 'Come on, we'll kill that baby for you. We'll kill as many babies as you want. That's why you need to vote for me. You got to vote for these Democrats.'" Supreme Court. We had this okay. What happens there? All right.
But Sam, I'll go back to it. Some of these Democrats, they may agree with you.
Yeah.
But you know what? They have to go along because you know why?
It's
Here's how
sad.
politics works.
Yeah.
They need money to win, and in
Yeah.
order to win, they got to do that.
So you
It's
sell
just the way
your
it is.
soul to the devil.
That's how it works.
I told the deacon on Sunday or Saturday, I said, "Maurice, it's a shame how Satan is taking over this country. Okay, secularism. They're going after they're telling women, you want them to tell you how to run your body? You want these Republicans it's not health care for women. It's how many poor women are going to getting psychological help because they aborted their unborn babies. I just can't understand it. Mike, you're important.
Sammy, no doubt in my lifetime, this has been the most socially divisive issue of all time. And I think it'll remain so. And why is it going to remain the front burner? And Charles, I think you brought up the statistic maybe last time on the show or the time before. The abortion issue is very important to suburban females. Suburban females are the people who really want the pro-abortion issue, not the suburban males, And again, as long as the Democratic Party or who's ever pushing the issue is going to get that vote, that's where a lot of these elections are being decided, Sammy. So is it about getting votes? Absolutely.
Do we lose conscience? Do we lose sight of our conscience? Do we lose sight of our faith? Do we lose sight of understanding that there is God's creation? I mean, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, Irish Catholic, goes to church every week. I mean, there's such a thing as called the Apostles' Creed. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth. I mean, how could you go, I don't understand, how can you go to church, any faith, and yet still believe, kill that unborn baby? The Democrats will do it for you.
Sammy, I heard both you and former Congressman Barletta talk about the devil tonight.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure all of us saw there was just a major settlement in a school district outside of Allentown. Where was it, Saturday? What they get? $2 million, I think, because they wouldn't let them have a demonic. What was the demonic?
Satan Club.
Yeah, Satan Club. Yeah, So I mean, it's crazy. I mean, bringing the devil into the classroom, into clubs, and.
You know what, Louis?
It's getting a little crazy.
I'm really concerned about my grandchildren, and my children. You're exactly right. My friends, these are our opinions. Sam at ssptv.com. Let me tell you something, my friends. I don't care what they say, how they say it. Abortion is wrong, and I feel so sorry for those people who have sold their souls to the devil just for the secularism part of our life. These are unborn babies. These are poor unborn babies. It's just sad, and I'm so proud of you, Mike, because first of all, you're faithful to your religion, and and anybody, Catholic, Protestant, but you've always been there for those unborn kids. And I wish the Democrat Party would take your philosophy, really. Always nice having you.
Same
Anything
here.
close?
One quick thing I'd like to say, prayers to a very good friend of mine, someone who was on the study commission with me, Mayor Kingston, and Magistrate Jim Haggerty, who's fighting for his life with cancer. So prayers to him.
Oh, well, we wish him the best. Thanks for coming on the show. Charles, always nice. You come up from Harrisburg, or where are you from now?
Philadelphia. Yeah,
Philadelphia.
yeah.
That bad area in Philadelphia, or the good area in Philadelphia?
It's a good area.
Good area. Mike, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Great being with you, Sam.
Folks, remember, Sam at ssptv.com. Want to thank our media sponsors, Standard Speaker, and of course, Republican Herald in Pottsville. We appreciate the fact that you went talking about up-to-minute news, turn to the Standard Speaker and the Pottsville Republican. We'll see you next time.